Oh. Hello guys, welcome back to Fatality Fitness with Aaron. This is the last video in the Kung Fu Basics series, and this one we're going to be mostly sitting down, so hence the different camera view, different angle. I want to talk about how Kung Fu is overtly, to most people, a physical act, a physical martial art. You know, physical displays of like special physicalities we see, from weapons trainings to running up some walls, to then the concept that Kung Fu martial artists can go through pains that most men couldn't, and can put their hands through blocks of wood and bricks, and all of that is from the outside view is a very physical and perhaps even masculine judgment. But for me, one of the great truths you learn in Kung Fu, and me telling you this isn't going to teach you this, there's no substitute for learning, but what I can hopefully do is show you that there is a door that you can walk through, that the spiritual aspect of Kung Fu is stronger than the physical, and that we can only do the physical things. We can only kick above our heads and spin and jump and learn all of these crazy weapons and whatnot because the spirit is strong, because the spirit is aligned with the body. And that is something I think is very much lacking in modern martial arts, is lacking in modern combat sports. And as we become, as a species, as a society, as we become so built up to to-do lists and calendars, you know, ruling our life, and the continual kind of pull of our attention towards other means, we are losing spirituality. So that's my piece about society, but let's bring it back to Kung Fu. Within Kung Fu, the true masters understand that the strength of the spirit is greater than, or at least equal to, the strength of the physical body. That the physical feats, the things we endure, the trainings we are committed to, aren't just about proving that we can do things physically. It's proving mentally and spiritually that you can get through these things, that you can get past the plateau of, I know a kick, but the kick isn't working. I know a punch, but the punch isn't hitting. That the constant development of the physical body is always going to lead to a spiritual development too. And for me, vice versa. The stronger your spiritual developments, the stronger your understanding that in studying Kung Fu, you are connecting with thousands of years and millions of martial artists who have come before you and practiced the stances, the guards, the strikes, have done the sparring, have conquered the staff or the sword or the sais. That it's always bigger than the individual, but there is a shared spirituality within it. So for me, body is mind, and then the mind is the spirit. So we start with the body, we start stretching it, we start learning how to throw punches and throw kicks, we start learning how to guard, and then that translates into your mind, understanding that you can do these things. For me, as a teacher, as a sifu, as a personal trainer too, one of the great joys of those roles is being able to tell someone you're going to be able to do this. They won't believe it until they do it, and can't help but believe it, believe in their own actions. There's so much power to that for the teacher and for the student. There's so much power to, I've trained a lot of different people, and say for instance I'm teaching boxing to a girl who's never thrown a punch, never thrown a kick. And by the end of that first session, she throws a 1, a 2, and a 3. And she understands the concept behind throwing the 1, 2, 3. She understands the mechanics behind it. And then mentally, she understands that she can throw it. And that is such a pivotal part of learning martial arts, of learning anything. And I often say skateboarding is very similar to martial arts, as I love skateboarding. And skateboarding is similar because you have these tricks that you're like, there's no way I can do this, until you practice and you fall, and you practice and you fall, and you practice and you fall, and one day you do it once, and then you unlock the knowledge that you can do it. And then from there, you're much less afraid to try to do the kickflip or the heel flip. And bringing it back to martial arts, as a martial artist first, I took that knowledge into skateboarding, and I think I got okay at skateboarding because of that, because I was able to understand, like, I can do this. If I can throw a flying kick, I can definitely heel flip. And then I became, my mind knowing that helped my spirit become solid in myself, understanding like I can do these things, even though that is years and years after I'd done, or achieved great things in Kung Fu and kickboxing. So we're in a constant war with ourselves. And we always have to try and balance the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So for me, part of the spiritual development in the martial arts isn't just learning about Taoism or Buddhism. It isn't just learning about where it all came from. These things are important, but it isn't just about those. For me, one of the reasons we practice horse stance in Kung Fu, it is to build up strength in the legs and the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes. It is to focus in and it be an actionable stance in which you can defend yourself from and which there are possibilities from. But for me, one of the biggest reasons for doing Mabu continually is that you have to grit your teeth and bear it. You have to, it's never going to get comfortable. You can get stronger for sure, but then you get lower in your horse stance. Then you might get a little wider. Then you might lift your heels up. There's always ways to add to the force of it, to the physicality of it. But all you are doing in horse stance is having a conversation with yourself to say, I can do this. To say 10 more seconds. To say I haven't finished yet, to say this pain doesn't matter, this, for me it isn't, I don't like to use the word pain actually, but this ache, this shaking, this tenderness, this strain, it doesn't matter because I have the correct technique. I'm not going to injure myself, I just have to push through it. It's the same principle as you go for your first run of the year, and you might make it 10 minutes, and your second one is 12 minutes, and your third one is 15, and then your fourth one is 25. Everything is a build-up physically, but I think those runnings, you could have run the 25 minutes initially, really. It was your mind saying it, you can't. So for me, the spirit and the mind must be aligned behind the body. So you train the body, you understand what you can do with inside your mind, and then the spirit, the energy of yourself, the willpower of yourself is what can really sharpen those techniques, those physical aspects, and those mental kind of achievements, let's say. So within the spiritual aspect, there is a lot of perseverance, and perseverance I know through stretching, and I love to stretch. I do it every day. And I've always been the most flexible man I know. I've always been I used to be able to do the splits, and that was my party trick until I was like 13. But I've always been able to stretch and get into positions that a lot of other people are like, what the hell? And all I say is this Kung Fu. I'm not gonna try and explain it all, but it's Kung Fu. It's me knowing that I can do these things, but also me trying to go a little further each time, And that isn't to say I'm as flexible as a gymnast or a ballet dancer, but I am functionally flexible. My kicks can hit heads taller than my own. I can stoop, I can get low if I need to guard or get down for a sweep. I can crawl like a bear. I can hop like a monkey. All of these things are functional to me, but are also from or developed from stretching all of my body and having a flexible body. This is, for me, we talk a lot more in modern times about strength and strength from aesthetic, and for me that's an abomination of what strength is. Strength isn't about being aesthetically pleasing or aesthetically big or large. Nothing to do with that. Strength, it comes from what your body has learnt to do and what your body is capable of doing without injury. Because how many gym fail injuries, do we see from poor technique, misjudgment, and just stupidity, just straight up stupidity. Whereas you won't see half as many injuries in something like combat sports, like UFC, like MMA. You do see injuries, you do see bad injuries, but for what they are doing constantly, you'd expect to see a lot more injuries compared to a lot of other people. But most martial artists stretch, whether it's stretching to connect with their spirit or whether it's stretching to know that you need to get rid of the lactic acid in your muscles that you've built up. It doesn't really matter. There's an aspect for anyone stretching, and I think this is another reason yoga has become so big right now, which is great for martial arts. I think that people are understanding there's so much benefit physically, mentally, spiritually from just stretching, which lends itself to the martial arts. That the more we stretch and the more supple we become, the greater striking attributes, the greater flexibility, the quicker our reaction speed. It's all to build and build upon what you have. And so I'd like us to just do a little small stretch together, very simple, very basic, but I'm going to talk you through it a little bit, but I'm also going to try and leave us have a bit of peace, because for me stretching, I didn't even realize this until much later in my life, but stretching is always meditation for me, because it allows me to connect with my body in an immediate sense and channel my own energies. So no matter how anxious I might be feeling, no matter where my mind is wandering off to, what project it's on, what next move I'm gonna do, stretching brings me down to myself. And ultimately that's where we need to be great martial artists. So what we're going to do is just have a small seated stretch together, and think about, this is not homework, I want you to feel like this is some sort of homework. I just want you to have a think why you were doing martial arts, why you want to start learning Kung Fu. What is it about yourself that you're doing? What is it about yourself that you want to improve? And then also, if you feel like, nah, Aaron, I don't want to think about anything right now, that is also perfect for stretching. We have a concept within Buddhism and martial arts that we empty the cup. We must empty the cup. And we must empty the cup more so recently. We must empty our mind to then be able to refill it. Otherwise, all we're doing is like pouring upon something that's already full, so there's just spillage and pouring on top, and spillage and pouring on top. We must empty out to be able to receive more. And this concept is very important to me and how I train, because I train for many different reasons and for many different functionalities, because I like to be prepared for everything. That's who I am. I want to be able to hang upside down off monkey bars. I want to be able to climb trees. I want to be able to crawl under something very thin or tight and be flexible enough to squeeze in. And then I also want to be able to defend myself against single and multiple attackers. That is Kung Fu to me. But we all have to, for every opening, and I've talked about this in previous videos, there must be a closing. And to me, the opening of the physicality in martial arts has to be closed, and we close it with stretching. So let's have a seated hamstring stretch. I'm going to turn slightly here so we've got a bit of a side view. So I want to sit right on your butt cheeks, on your butt bones, legs straight out in front of you. There's going to be varying degrees of flexibility. I don't care how far you can stretch. I care that you're going to try and stretch. Okay. So with this one, we're going to stretch the back of the entire legs. So you want to keep a high chest. Your back is straight here. We aren't leaned like this. Our back is straight, and then we bend from the hips. We're aiming for the feet. If you can't get the feet, you get the ankles, or you get the shins, you get the knees, wherever you can. Okay. So Always take a breath in to start the stretch. It doesn't matter if you keep this rhythmic breathing. Right now it doesn't matter, but what matters is you taking a breath, and I'm ready for this stretch and this stretch alone. I often close my eyes when I'm stretching, which is something I only really thought about in preparing for this video. So that tells me that I want to disconnect from everything else around me when I am stretching. And for me, I'm living in Finland right now. I am soon moving to Tenerife, and that's where Fatality Fitness is going to become a true business, I feel. I have a lot of plans. But right now, living in Finland, it's very snowy, and I have a sauna in my house, and I do 3 rounds of stretching, 3 10-minute rounds of stretching in the sauna. So I do 10 minutes of stretching, come out, have a cold shower, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And for me, what a beautiful routine that is, because the heat of the sauna makes the stretching more intense, that you might be able to, stretch a little further. But I think the heat in the environment allows you to really get into a meditative state of mind. So stretching in the sauna for me has become great for my recovery, way better than just stretching alone as such, but has become more meditative, has become more spiritual, let's say, this ability to be able to switch off deeper and connect my body further. So yeah, this video is a little bit about my histories and my dealings with Kung Fu, but that is what connecting with the spirit will do, is bring out these truths and these tales within you, not just those you've written, but those you feel like you can write. Okay, you want to come back up. That was a good stretch down the back of the leg. Now we're going to do a bow stretch. So keep the left leg forward. You're going to tuck the right leg into the inner left thigh. And first of all, you want to make sure you're still sitting on those butt bones. You don't want to be leant against one side. You still want to be balanced on your hips. So first of all, we're going to lean down with the first hand, and then you reach with the second. And the modifier for this is to keep the left hand on the left leg, and then we're going to open up the chest. So we're going to kind of twist sideways, and then we reach over the top of us with the right arm. So instead of reaching through like we did, we're reaching over, which opens up the lat and the side body. And in talking about guarding and countering in the last video, this is doing 2 things at once for me. I'm stretching the outside of my left leg and the hamstring, and also my oblique and my side body simultaneously in a balanced motion. As you can see, my arm is matching my leg. It's just depending on if you can get the twist and the tweak of it. Okay? Good. And come back up. And then I just want you to try and flatten your chest against that bent leg, and then push around the side, and you should feel a stretch here through into your groin and also in your upper back as you twist it out. Good. So there's one side. Now we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So first of all, reach down and through. Right hand, then left hand, and we're almost pulling ourselves straight down. Maintain a straight back, have that back almost tensed, so you aren't just folding on yourself, okay? You are stretching. And these specific stretches, I've put these ones in here. I've been doing yoga for 10 years now. So I've added a lot of stretches to my routine, but these stretches really are where I started in Kung Fu. this was the same before every session. We'd have to do our leg swings and then these kind of stretches, the bow and the butterfly and the straight out. So come back up, take a breath, and we're going to reach over the top now with the left hand. And you should be able to feel the stretch in the oblique and the side body. And for me, sometimes what I do, I use my toes to push against my fingers, and I flex my foot, which is flexing my calf, which is flexing my lat. So stretching is the time to persevere, and it is also the time to sit with yourself, to be with yourself. So we can come back from the bow stretch. Now we're going to do a split stretch. So spread your legs out as you lift your hips. It's easier to lift your hips first, and then you plant your sit bones so you know they're straight, and you have your legs as wide as you feel like you can go, and maintain tension in your abs and tension in the lower back. If you put them any wider, when they won't really go that far, you're gonna start to like be pulled one way or another. Okay, we are gonna engage the stretch. We are just spanning our legs right now. So first of all, again, keep this core intact and reach out in front of you. So you're stretching the arms here and the lats with this arm stretch by reaching out. But by reaching out, you're also pulling on the groin, on both sides of the groin, and the hips down. So this one you feel more in the interior of your legs. Okay? So out forward first to engage the arms, and you can kind of crawl your fingers and really even stretch your spine out straight through this. And for me, connecting with your body parts, connecting with what is yours, the only thing that's yours is your entire body. That, I think we've lost grasp of that as we've become more and more aesthetic, more and more we might have better bodies, more nutrition bodies, bigger bodies, but I think we've lost what it is to be truly in contact with our body, because we see it as like a display tool, not a functional tool. And for me, it's the functional tool, you know. It's what keeps you alive in every aspect, and to be able to defend yourself with it is, I think, a privilege, but also it's a promise to yourself that you won't leave it slipping, you won't leave it get lazy. And I mean, I've left my body get fat at one point, and I got real fat. I was even fighting in kickboxing pretty fat, like 83 kilo, and now I'm 70, and that was when I was like 19, 20, and then I started to lose weight, and I've never gone back again, because I can't accept this aspect that I'm blunting my own tool, that I'm blunting my own weapon, that I am not honouring it. And these are the kind of thoughts you should have during stretching, I think. To actually connect with your body, to hear it, to listen to it. So come back up, and then we're going to reach over to the left leg and over the top like we did, and pull yourself down so you can feel the tightness of the stretch within your hamstring. So in stretching, we should start to understand our bodies more. We understand them more when we learn punches and we learn kicks and we learn how to counter, and we even learn a kata. That's all connecting with your body, but the stretching is your time and your time alone to really hear yourself out. And there is a lot of mysticism to Kung Fu just because there are certain things that are inexplicable. And I think for me, I can hear injuries building up in my body when I'm stretching. I can hear what's happening, change legs, what's happening in my, let's say, my glutes when I start to stretch. I can feel if they are tight or if they are strained or if they are underused. In fact, that is probably the biggest part of listening to my body is understanding like, actually I didn't quite engage what I wanted to engage there. And therefore the stances are always good to, to practice every day to know what you're engaging. Because the stances, each of them engage a lot of muscles and muscle groups, and also the motions we do within them, the punching and the guarding and the kicking, are all going to affect that too. Right, we're going to bring your legs in, and I just want to teach or show, I just want to show Zazen, because I've spoken a little bit about Zen Buddhism and the effect that has had on Kung Fu and Kung Fu on Zen Buddhism, vice versa. And we all know like the Shaolin Buddhist monks, the orange robes, the staffs and the spears and the jumping. And for me, that's still a dream of mine. I'm 32 now and I still dream of going to the Shaolin Temple and training through Kung Fu. After 27 years of training kind of a westernized version of Kung Fu, I would love to go and connect with the ancient masters there at the Shaolin. But Zazen comes from that. And Zazen is the body's position in which our energy flows into itself. So how we're practicing the seated position is to, it can be uncomfortable if you don't do it right. It's hard to even get to this point right here, the full lotus. So for you guys, if you can only sit with the legs crossed, sit with the leg crossed. If you feel like that's enough, it's enough. If you can put one leg over the other into half lotus, so you have this kind of this look here with one foot leaning on the opposite leg, get there. And then if you can, if you've already got one foot and you feel like you have flexibility in your joints here, keep it up, hold it on, and perfect. Now we're in full lotus, ready for Zazen. And Zazen is a meditative sitting position where we are channeling our own energy within ourselves, aligning ourselves, and we are accepting energy from the universe at the same time, okay? So we've got the full lotus, we've got a straight back, we're sitting on our sit bones, and then we're cupping a left hand in a right hand, touching our thumbs and having our here as a bowl. There's a bowl to catch whatever we want to catch, okay? So this one I am going to shut up, and we're just going to sit here for a minute, just a minute, feeling this stretch and trying to feel and hear what our body is saying to us, okay? Okay, come back to me for a minute. I hope that you were able to zone out, feel like you were going inside yourself, feel like you were going outside of yourself, feel like something was happening there that you didn't quite feel in the other stretches. And whilst this isn't such a stretch where you're going to feel one muscle as such, you want muscle pulling, this is a stretch, I would say, as coy as it sounds, for the spirit, for the mind. And this discipline of sitting straight and holding steady and holding tension in a position it's not going to be comfortable for most people is what I was talking about earlier. It's like how we develop the spirit. This discomfort, leads to the discomfort of the actions will lead to surety in the actions. They'll lead to the point where you can do this because you've done this, because you've persevered through learning it. So for me, Zazen is a nice way to finish any stretching session. I naturally got into my kind of box breathing where I do 5 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds empty, and so on. That's my meditative way. That helps me to get out of thinking of like, okay, I'm delivering a YouTube channel right now, a YouTube video, all of this. Even then, I was able to zone in into what I am specifically, away from any outside conceptions or perceptions. And I hope you can do the same, because it took me a long time to realize that stretching is a far superior part of Kung Fu and martial arts than we might realize, and that it can help you understand your techniques, your motions, your power, your strength better, by being able to sit with yourself, especially post-workout. And for many of the gyms I've been in around the world, I'm often the guy who's stretching prior and stretching post-workout and dedicated to doing those things. And for me, it isn't just about the body recovery, which it is about, which we have to take care of our body. It isn't just this explosive device and then rest. We have to ensure it's supple, we have to ensure it's balanced. But also, one of the reasons we bow is to close a stance, is to close a session or open a session. And for me, it's the same principle with the stretching. So anything you might have heard me say here, whether it be Zazen, any of the words you might think like, what the hell does that mean? Feel free to ask me through the channel. Do a Google search, have a look around. There is a great amount of texts and informations on Shaolin Buddhism, on Zen Buddhism, on Buddhism alone, on Kung Fu alone, and the tenets of Kung Fu. There's a great swathe of information out there right now. But also, just come to your Sifu if you wanna know. I'd be more than willing to talk Kung Fu with any of you. So let's close it for here. This was a nice steady one, a nice peaceful one. Sun shining outside right now. It's just about to hit me. It's been creeping up. So it's my time to log off. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for getting involved on the basics, on the Kung Fu basics. I just have a little closing statement, which is these introduction videos are just one raindrop in a downpour of Kung Fu knowledge and misinformation, and that is out there. I merely want to showcase the accessibility for anyone to learn, to practice, and to honor Kung Fu. No one is a martial artist, everyone learns to become a martial artist, okay? And then hopefully I've been able to allude a little bit to the life-affirming depths of its history and those monks and masters who continue the teachings and traditions and have continued them for thousands of years. When training Kung Fu, I feel closest to the divine energy, and whatever divine energy may mean for you, I hope this helps you get a little closer to it as it does for me. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video.